In the midst of the coronavirus pandemic, Democrats have just introduced two different pieces of legislation to go after price gouging. But there are some, of course, big caveats to this. So now, House Democrats, according to Common Dreams, on Monday introduced two bipartisan bills to prevent price gouging for COVID treatments and vaccines and to strengthen oversight of federal spending on coronavirus research and development. So now it's called the Make Medications Affordable by Preventing Pandemic Price Gouging. And so it's basically just MMAPPP with a couple of extra P's added on. Anyway, so it was introduced on Monday, and it was sponsored by Representative Jan Schakowsky. And so MAP would prevent price gouging, according to a statement from Schakowsky's office, by prohibiting pharmaceutical monopolies on new taxpayer-funded COVID-19 drugs in order to ensure universal access to these drugs. Access. Requiring the federal government to mandate reasonable, affordable pricing of any new taxpayer-funded COVID-19 drug used to diagnose, mitigate, prevent, or treat COVID-19, and ensure transparency and requiring manufacturers to publicly report a specific breakdown of total expenditures of any COVID-19 drug, including what percentage of those expenditures were derived from federal funds. That's actually not bad. And preventing excessive pricing of drugs used to treat any disease that causes a public health emergency by waiving exclusive licenses and compensating with a reasonable royalty. So that's just one, right? The second bill is called the Taxpayer Research and Coronavirus Knowledge Act, or TRAC, the TRAC Act. And it would establish a single database for COVID-19 research and development, detailing all the financial and non-financial federal support for pharmaceutical companies, information on the clinical trials and patents, and the full term of deals between the government and drug manufacturers. And so basically that is just a little bit of transparency there, which, again, that's not bad. Not bad, but also not great either. So let me explain that, right? So look, I read this, right? And basically it wants to ensure, quote unquote, universal access to the drugs. Here we go. Let's give you access, right? Oh, okay, well, unless we have the details of how much it's going to be for whatever drugs come out. Because right now, yes, there's, I think, one drug that is being used to treat COVID in the most extreme cases, right? But generally, we don't have an effective treatment for all of the different kinds of cases of coronavirus that we have, from very mild to moderate, right? Generally, again, these drugs are reserved for people that are on ventilators, that are facing the worst conditions, right? And so, all right, access. Let's talk about access, right? Well, right now I have access to health insurance. Doesn't mean I can afford access to health insurance. And so that's always the problem with these, these House Democrat bills. Generally, they're pretty weak sauce. And so that's the problem, right? So now, for me, I think medication should be free at the point of service. But how are you going to pay for it? Then you pay for it through taxes. And yes, by allowing the government to use its power to negotiate with the drug manufacturers in order to do a cheaper price. Now, some of these bills actually do kind of go in that direction. And that's why they get progressive support. And so, in fact, let me go here to where there is support from a lot of organizations and progressives. For example, the Congressional Progressive Caucus, their chairs Mark Pocan and Pramila Jayapal endorse this. Not only that, but you have Representative Peter DeFazio, Rosa DeLauro, Francis Rooney, and DeLauro. Of course, DeLauro is the chair of the House Labor and Health and Human Services and related agencies, appropriated subcommittee, blah, 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 right? And so you've got Pocan and Jayapal that are in favor of this, and that's okay. You also have the organizations that are backing the MAP Act, including the Center for Democracy in Action, Oxfam America, People's Actions. You also have supporters of the TRACK Act, include the AARP, Project on Government Oversight and Communication Workers of America. And then you also have some that support both, such as Americans for Tax Fairness, Individual, Moms Rising, Public Citizen, and Social Security Works. And so, yeah, you've got some progressives and some progressive groups that are behind this because of some of the stuff that is actually going in a more positive direction. And that's good. Now, the reason, of course, that this is bipartisan is because, I mean, for one, you actually have to have some Republican support. I realize that, right? Okay, I realize that you have to work a little bit with the Republicans to be able to get some things passed through the Senate because Republicans run the Senate, right? At this point in time. I get that, right? At the same time, the reason that we're able to do this is because the polling is very, very clear. Americans overwhelmingly believe that pharmaceutical companies are there to screw them over. And of course, I mean, there's no lies there, right? Yeah, of course. Yes, the pharmaceutical companies will price gouge you. In fact, 88% of Americans say that on COVID-19, we believe that if there is a treatment or there is a vaccine for coronavirus, they will overcharge us for it. Americans aren't stupid. They know. They know that Big Pharma is out to make profit. Not only that, but you have an overwhelming majority, 91% of Democrats, 87% of independents, and 89% of Republicans said that they believe that if an effective treatment for COVID-19 is approved by the FDA, the government should get involved and negotiate the price of treatment with the drug manufacturer to bring the drugs down and to prevent these manufacturers from being able to price gouge you. So this is massively popular. This idea that we should have some government intervention in making sure that we don't get screwed over for coronavirus. So that's good. Now, that said, I'm in favor of the stuff that's in this bill. Don't mistake me, right? But we need to go further. I mean, this is the problem that I have with Democrats, right? So yes, we should focus on like the pandemic as well, right? But why are we limiting this just to the pandemic? Why don't we apply this to all medication? I mean, look, why is it that we can still allow price gouging when it comes to somebody's insulin? Why? Or any other life-saving medication? And see, that's the problem. Democrats do something so minimal only when they have overwhelming support, and yet we're supposed to give them kudos for it. It's the bare minimum, guys. We're in a pandemic. I mean, when you think about it, how insane is it that we live in a country where this country refuses to go any further than just reminding companies to not price gouge during the plague? But they refuse to do it afterwards. Like, no, you can price gouge, just not on this, just not when we have a plague, when we have a pandemic. You can do it any other time. Why? Why are we not doing this for everything else? It's the whole thing is starting to piss me off now because it's weak. It's so incredibly weak. Even though it is very well-intentioned and backed by well-intentioned people, you still are giving license to these companies to when it comes to other drugs. Because, okay, say they develop something from COVID-19, right? And they don't price gouge and everybody gets something at an affordable price. You know where they're going to make their money? They're going to price gouge on everything else. So that insulin is still going to be unaffordable. Other drugs are going to continue to be unaffordable. You're going to have people like Martin Shkreli that are going to continue to buy up old drugs and price gouge on them. That's what they do. You've got to change the system. You've got to change the system, or else they're going to keep doing this stuff. And that's what frustrates me. That's what frustrates me. It's that inability to buck the donors. And again, the pharmaceutical companies, they give the most to both Democrats and Republicans. And so they're not going to defy their donors and give the government the power to actually regulate these drugs. It's sad. It's incredibly sad and pathetic. We got to change the system. Medicare for all. Hey guys, hopefully you enjoyed that free video. Now I'm going to have to ask you a favor. Between the demonetization and the YouTube algorithm messing around with view counts, etc., we're having a hard time adjusting to the new YouTube reality, which is where you guys come in. See, we have a Patreon, patreon.com/TYTNation, set up to help us rely on you guys, the viewers, instead of big corporate ads. Look, you know the show. You know I'm not in favor of big corporations anyway. So help us transition away from relying on the ad model to pay the bills and sign up to be a patron, patreon.com/TYTNation. That goes a long way to help us keep the lights on. And you guys will know that you're supporting independent, progressive media.